Welcome to Cult Connections. Let's see what we are taking a sideways look at today. Hello, I'm your host, Ian. Today I am joined by Raphaela Ximenes. I think that is right. Hello there.
Yes,
Rapha, how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Now, normally I wouldn't usually use anybody's full sort of name when they come on. However, there's
That's okay.
a good the reason for it, and as you can maybe tell, I'm in Scotland. Rafa, you are in Rio.
Yes, I'm in Rio in Brazil.
Um, and as we were chatting, obviously in the lead up to the doing this the episode, um, what I had to admit was I had no idea how to pronounce your surname,
That's okay.
and, um, and the reason for that is that it starts with an X,
Yes.
and I just and in my Scottish, brain, I just could not work out what that actually said. So I think I did okay. Um, Ximenes.
Ximenes. Yes, it's very right.
Anyway, thank you so much. So uh, today we're going to talk horror films, slightly different, um, and we will have there a bit of a laugh about this because actually the lead up to doing the podcast hasn't gone that smoothly.
Yes.
There for us, we did have three films lined up. We're only actually going to talk about two. But
Yes.
that's fine because they're two great films. Um, but for you, Rafa, you very much came and you wanted to talk about the horror films, and that's a big the sort of passion of yours. Um,
Yes.
but what I wanted just to know about is, can you tell me a little bit about the sort of Brazilian horror horror their scene?
Yes, we have. Well, especially now with everything that we are living, we have very a big scene of horror movies in Brazil. But we have like a very famous director, horror director from the 60s and the 70s called, well, he called himself Joe Coffin. He in Brazil is Zé do Caixão.
Okay.
And he was amazing. Unfortunately, he died last year on February 2020. And he was very important for the cinema scene in Brazil because he used to do a very different kind of cinema. He used to do like a very experimental, let's say, um, movies, and he used to talk a little bit about demons and some a little bit about African religions because we have a lot of influence of African religions here in Brazil, and it's very interesting because he became a director during the dictatorship that happened here in Brazil from 64 to 82, 85, and he was like he's kind of to protest what's happening and all the horror that was happening to the people in Brazil. A lot of people were being tortured, a lot of people were being killed, a lot of people disappeared. Some people needed to leave the country, to live abroad because it was impossible to live here in Brazil. So for us, Joe Coffin, it was like a great name in horror movies and movies in Brazil, and a great way to protest all the horrors that we were living in Brazil as well. So
Yeah. So Rafa, for um of obviously today we're going to talk about horror films, and that's something that you are very they're sort of passionate about.
yes,
And one thing I'm always interested in is when I talk to people about horror films or scary films, and about why they like them. There's definitely a difference between why the men like, scary films and why women like them. So I would like to just to get sort of your view on that.
Okay. Well, I think women like horror movies because it's kind of to control the fear and the scare, the scary things that's happening. All the fear, all the violence, it's on the screen. It's not near us. It's not around us because a lot of women live with fear of violence against our bodies, violence against our minds. We suffer a lot of types of violence every day, even small little violence that some people doesn't notice that it's a kind of violence. We live with that, so I think we like horror movies because we can control that fear, and sometimes we can release the anger and that we feel, because of course it's not like we feel this fear and this we feel weakness. So when you see things happening in the movie, you feel like, oh, I can put my anger out without having problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are a lot of good women doing horror movies because I think it's a very good way to put all the fears on the screen and show the world what it's like to be a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a cliche, but it's what happened. Oh,
No,
like
no. I think you're absolutely right. I think the horror films work. They will work in the same way for men and women, and and that we do have, fears that we can, that can be, they're sort of portrayed in these films. But when it comes to real life, Rapha, you're absolutely right. It is, the real world's just as horrific for a lot of um, the women, or actually most women, and in lots of different ways, of course. But there is,
yes,
there is lots of, there is lots of nasty things that go on there,
yes,
that real fear, and I'm not worried about getting, chopped up by a sort of serial, this sort of killer. That wouldn't be a rational fear for me. But for a woman, when you live in a world where you don't want to walk home at night on your own,
yes,
or just the kind of, and as you see, all the violence, or all the way that women are they're sort of portrayed by men in their
yes,
films, is very different. And I think that the two films that we've actually picked um, offer a good contrast to that.
yes,
Because, as we said, so these are two films directed by they're women, and I think that makes a
yes,
real sort of difference, actually, in how the central female, their sort of characters are um, they're sort of portrayed and sort of represented on the screen. And we've got the two absolutely brilliant films. So what we're going to do is to start in 2014, and that's with a Australian film, and that's The Babadook. And this wasn't a film I was familiar with until I watched it there just the other day there. But wow, what a film! What a very scary film! But what a very
yes.
yeah, thought-provoking film as well. So did you see this roughly when it came out there, Rafa?
I saw it when it came out, but I didn't see on the cinema, on the movie theater, because I don't I don't I don't know if it was on the movie theater here in Brazil. But at the same time, I think it will be a good experience to watch this movie on a big screen, because I got really, really scared
Yeah.
of Duke and the whole situation. And
That-
because I like horror movies, but I got very scared very easy. So
well, we know that's the whole sort of point of the films. If you watch a
yes.
horror film and you don't feel scared, then it hasn't really worked, has it?
But I like to say, like, I like horror movies because of more of the discomfort, that it takes you off your comfort zone and
Mhm.
make you think about what's happening,
Yeah.
than the scary, because there are some movies that are not so scary, but they are horror movies and make you not very comfortable, but makes you think about
Yeah.
what are you what are you seeing, and what are they are trying to tell you. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think it's I
Um,
think this is important in a horror movie.
so actually, just to ask Rafa, so on a very minor point, so you said that you watched this film at home.
Yes.
Watched it in a cinema, do you think you would feel sort of different?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so, because it's uh, not only because of the whole vibe of the movie. It's very bleak. Um, it's very dark, and it's very sad. And the monster on the big screen must be very exciting to see the Babadook on the big screen.
Mhm.
As the aesthetic of the movie, it's amazing. It's a great movie. It reminds me of the German expressionism. That's a kind of movies that I love. I like a lot.
Mhm.
My friends will say, "Oh my God, I can't believe she managed to talk about that." Because I'm always talking about German expressionism, because I really, really like it. But this movie has this vibe, from the same kind of vibe that this kind of movies used to have, like the angles, the darkness, the shadows, the the scenes, the I think the she chose some scenes that's very similar to this type of horror movies, and I really like it. This and I think this in the big screen must be a total different movie.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, haha. Yeah, because when I watched it, this actually felt quite sort of personal in a way. It felt quite small, but in a good way.
Yes,
Which I
yes.
really, really enjoyed. Um, I'm just going to touch on the plot, etc. So anyway, so the Babadook 2014. It was written and directed by Jennifer Kent. It stars Izzy Davis as Amelia and Noah Wiseman as Samuel and the other two main their sort of characters. So what it does, it follows a mother and her son. She is they're sort of widowed. So it's just they're the two of them. And at the start of the film, so the two main characters have been terrorized by this sort of creature, this sort of demon. They're the Babadook. And originally it starts out as the son sees the Babadook and he's being sort of terrorized by it. the mum thinks it's all in his head. The boy actually seems quite sort of disturbed and quite scary himself.
Yes.
But then as it moves on, it actually sort of changes, and then she starts to see the creature, or strange things going on, and then the story moves on, very much from that. And we'll touch on what we think the story represents. What I did enjoy, and what you touched on there, Rapha, was the visual style
Yes.
to it. So it feels, the world that they're in, it feels very bleak. It's quite sort of washed out. For all we know, it's set in the modern day. It feels quite, it maybe feels like it actually is set in the 30s or the 40s.
Yes.
And I was, I really liked that, because it gave it a sense of that the central characters was somehow sort of removed from the world.
Yes. Yes, I like the movie because I really like this movie. I watched it, I think, 3 times now. It's not a movie that you watch like a lot of times, but I really like this movie. And the first time I saw, I didn't get it very well. Well, I get very well, but I didn't pay attention to details. And when I watch it again, especially now to do the podcast, I pay attention to other details, and like about the monster, that you 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 feel very scared about the monster, but then you you start to understand that the monster is inside of the mother or the son or both of them. And you understand that the monster is about how the mother is feeling. It's because she lost her husband, and she had the boy at the same day that she lost her husband. So you kind of understand, because the boy is very it's very impossible in the beginning of the movie, and you keep thinking, oh my god, why she doesn't do anything about the boy. And then you realize that the boy is not that impossible. He's actually a very nice and sweet boy, and he likes his mother a lot. But the mother is struggling with to be a widow, to grieve, to feel sadness, and to have to raise a son without the husband. And the people around her didn't help the
Mm-hmm.
help. Oh my god. People around her don't help her,
Mm-hmm.
like her mother, her sister doesn't have time for her, doesn't have time for the boy. The school doesn't have time for the boy. So when you start to understand that she's just struggling a lot, and then you understand what's happening between her and her her boy. And I think it's like you said, first the Babadook, it's in the boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Babadook, first the boy starts to see the Babadook, and then the mother starts to see the Babadook, and then you realize that the Babadook is the manifestation of the sadness of the mother, I think.
Yeah, definitely, and that's very much the theme that I got as the film went on. So,
Mhm.
and it was almost like in the first third of the film or so, it felt quite they're sort of traditional in a way. Here's this boy, there's this scary monster, and I and
Yes.
I and I thought, oh well, the film will go one way, and then I started to think about it, um, and I don't know if other people pick up on this, but when I looked at this film and I think about what I do for my work,
Yes.
so I work in mental their health. So that's my line of work. Um, and then I started to see it from that angle. And so the Babadook isn't just a random scary, you know, demon or spirit or whatever that you see in lots of other films. It actually represents probably both the boys and the mother's mental health and their journey through what they're actually they're going through. And I very much picked up on that. But I thought the film told it in a very challenging way as well, because you know this isn't a emotional, you know, drama about a mother and her their child and what they're sort of going through. This is a very scary horror film.
Yes, yes. And as I told you, I was very curious and excited to talk to you about this movie exactly because you work with mental health. And for me, this movie, it's about that, you know. But I really like the way she builds the whole tension on the movie and the whole thing about the mother, because you can see very clearly that the mother is not okay. The mother is struggling to sleep. The mother is struggling to stay um, interested in her work. And there is some bits of the movie that gives you what's going on, because there is a part that the sister talked to her, why don't you write anymore? You have this feeling that she used to be a writer or a journalist, and now she doesn't want to do that anymore. You know, she just wants to do that work that she doesn't need to think. She doesn't need to do much, you know. Just take care of people, but not like it's not like she you have this feeling that she care about that people that she works with, but it's not like she brings that with her, you know. It's just the job. I have to do it, and then I go pick my boy on the school when I go home and sleep and start over again, you know. So
it's interesting what you say about because she does say that she did writing in the past, and she spoke about doing some writing for their children, and obviously one of the ways that the Babadook is actually represented is in book form, as a
yes.
as a children's book. Well, it's not a book I would be given there to any child of mine, but
yes.
but it's in
Well,
that.
maybe mine.
If you were slightly older than what Samuel is, maybe, but
yes,
that,
of course.
I mean, there's that is really well sort of done. And what I do like as well, so from the visual side of things, that the Babadook is you know represented as a scary image, as it were, but it's one that's totally black. And
Yes.
and for me, what I picked up from that was actually the black. I don't want to use blackness, but the the bleak feeling that she has inside, and how that they sort of manifests itself. So you know, there's no light or shade here. It's just pure their darkness for her.
Yes.
So I did really like that, and it's got very effective their scary moments, doesn't it? Especially in
Yes.
the final their third. And what I picked up on was actually so the two central their performances are absolutely great,
Yes, the
and
boy is amazing.
he is, and
I was he is amazing. He can make you yes, he can makes you feel everything he's feeling through his eyes, you know, like he's very, very good. And he's so little. He's like 6 7 years, so
yeah, yeah, absolutely superb. For for me as well, I'm not going to touch on this sort of too much for anyone who's maybe not watched it. Um, the ending intrigued me as well. So it ends reasonably happily, as it were. There's a
yes,
nice ending. I'm not going to go over it, but what what I actually did enjoy is what happened to the Babadook, and
yes,
and what the Babadook represents, because the Babadook is not, it's not, you know, banished in a way, it's still there. Um, and I really like that from, again, from a mental health side of things, looking at how people actually look after themselves, how they manage their
yes,
mental health and such like. So um mental health is like, you know, physical health, and that you have to work on it. So uh you know, so we all, we like, so we try to eat well, and you know, sort of exercise and all those things to save, you know, physically well, but also, you know, what things do I have to do to be, you know, mentally well. And I actually felt that the ending, you know, touched on that really well.
yes. I like the end of this movie a lot because I don't want to spoil the end, but because I think it's perfect, because I think it's how people deal with the struggles, you know. Sometimes you just need to learn how to live with that, to live with the demons that live inside of you, you know, because I think it's a very honest movie, a very real movie, besides the monster, you know. But I think it's a very honest movie because there is this struggle that she's going through. And I like the way the director shows the woman, the mother, because she's a single mother. She has to do she has to handle with a lot. She has to handle with the boy, she has to handle with the house, she has to handle with the job, and she has to do everything feeling grief, and she doesn't allow herself to be sad and to think about what happened to her husband. And I think that's very honest, you know, because a lot of people are like that. You know, you see a lot of women that it's alone in the world and has to deal with all of that, even if it's not lost a husband, but it's a single mom with a little boy or a little girl with a little kid, and has to deal with the world telling her what to do. Oh, you should treat your boy like that. You should, your boy need to be like that. You should be like that, you know. And she only wants to live and not to do bad things to the boy, you know, because you see that she's struggling a lot to accept um, that she has the boy, but she doesn't have the husband anymore. But she loves his son.
Mhm.
Oh, she loves her son. That's very clear. But um, she just needs help, you know. And the thing is, in the movie, she she needs to figure out by herself what to do, you know. And what she does is to live to learn to she learned to live with the with her demons, you know.
Mhm.
So it's I think it's a great movie because of that.
I
I
think it
like
is.
no, go on.
No, 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 no. But
No, I was thinking like I like how she starts to change, you know, like when she can't sleep anymore. And then you realize that, oh, do you think that the monster exists or it's just her that
Mhm.
doesn't sleep? So you don't know what its dreams, like nightmares, or her awake, or it's just her having these visions because she can't sleep, you know. I like that in the movie.
It does indeed. It has a very dreamlike sort of quality. Very much so, doesn't it? So, um, one thing I would like to touch on, and just before we move on there, Rafa, and
Mm-hmm.
just talk about how women are represented in sort of horror films. And there was a scene, in a very short scene, um, that made me think, if this was a male director, the scene would be very different. And there's a very small scene where Amelia, the mother, she's lying in a bed and they're pleasuring herself, as it were.
Yes.
And it's shot in a way that lots of other films would have shot that very differently and made it feel voyeuristic and exploitative, and not really actually relevant to the story. um but this scene's it's shot in a way where it makes sense as part of the story, and
Yes.
there's no sort of nastiness about it or anything
No.
like that.
Yes. This scene it's interesting because she's struggling to sleep, right? And she's trying everything she can to feel a little bit better about herself. So you see that she doesn't do that for happiness or for pleasure. She does do that as like I need a way to to feel a little bit better about myself
Mm-hmm.
and to sleep. And I think I like this scene. I think this scene it's very it's so natural, organic in the movie, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's part of all the struggles that she has because she doesn't think about I don't think she's thinking about sex or men or or anything like that. I think she just needs to feel a way to relieve herself, to go to sleep, and all the tension that she's feeling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because the scene is cut by the sun that come to her bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
She got very frustrated, like, oh my god, I can't sleep, you know, at all. I can't relax, you know, at all. So
So yeah. Mm-hmm. I think what struck me was just it was shot in a way that um other films wouldn't have shot it like that, and
yes,
that's what struck me with it. And um I think probably having a woman, the director, actually makes a huge difference in how
yes,
that's
I
portrayed. Mhm.
yes, I think the film is very honest about the way she deals with the boy, you know, like the relationship between a mother and a son, and the way they show her, you know, because if you see, she appears wearing. I'm almost saying something Portuguese now. Sorry.
That's all right.
The way she appears wearing like a nightgown, but it's not a sexy one. It's just
Yeah. Hmm.
the
Yeah. Uh-huh.
trying to go to sleep. You know.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And that's the thing. I can think of so many other films where it would, she would have a sexy nightgown on.
Yes, but it
So
just doesn't. She
yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. Well,
she's always with the no makeup and the hair very messy and she has no vanity at all, you know.
Yeah,
So this is interesting in the
yeah,
movie because this is not important, I think, because she just want to go through life. That's the feeling that you have.
uh-huh. But I think what is important is that um, you know, Amelia is actually represented as being a very real woman.
Mhm.
You know, they very much get that sort of feeling that there's no, you know, there's no sort of glamour, there's no falseness or anything trying,
Yes.
you know, foisted on her. And you know, I think of a lot of films in there the past, and that really wouldn't have been the case, even if they're telling a very similar,
Yes.
you know, story. So,
Yes,
um,
I was thinking about like the guy that works with her.
mhm,
That's the person that is nice to her, besides the old lady that's the neighbor.
mhm,
And he is very nice to her. He's always joking and trying to make her feel better because I think he senses that she's not okay. And then she starts to feel a little bit attached to him, and you see that she needs so much help and attention, that the little bit of attention that she gets on work, at work with this guy, she started to think that it's something else, and then she realized that it's not when she saw him with a girlfriend. You
mhm.
remember the scene?
Yeah, uh-huh.
And I think that's it, you know. She's so broken, she's so sad, she's so needing some attention and someone to take care of her. That's a little bit of attention, it's too much for her, like it's everything that she needs, you know. So I think this is very interesting in the movie because you don't think like, oh, she will have a relationship with him, but it's not. It's just like she just needs someone to take care of her, I think.
Mhm.
And this is very, I think this is very real and honest, you know, because she's so alone. She's doing everything by herself, you know. So I like this part too.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I think we'll just move on, but absolutely just to sum up, what a fantastic film, and I'm so glad
Yeah.
that you chose it. So, and very scary as well. Absolutely. All the way
Yes.
through. Um, we're going to move on from a demon that represents um, our thoughts and our feelings and our um, emotions and so on, um, to another film where the central character is a demon basically because he's just not a nice bloke
No.
whatsoever. So so what we are going to talk about now is 2000's American Psycho, which was directed by Mary Harron, um, and of course stars Christian the Bale as Patrick Bateman, and a real powerhouse, their sort of performance
Yes.
in this role. So in this film, Christian Bale plays a New York, their sort of businessman in the 1980s, and very much from that sort of yuppie, the
Yes.
the image or sort of stereotype that came out. And it's not so much a stereotype because we can think of lots of men who are like him, even even then now. Um, and just to touch on the plot a little bit, because I don't want to spoil the film, but you know, we obviously have to talk a bit about what we are about 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 the plot, etc. So, so he is a businessman. He is surrounded by other um, the businessmen. They're all not very nice,
No.
but you know, so it's you know meetings and you know the offices and fancy their sort of dinners in nice their restaurants, and he lives in a nice their apartment, as do all his I wouldn't even call them sort of friends, because I don't think he actually has any friends,
Yes.
but
Yes.
and this is his descent from being a bit of a prick. I'm going to use that term fairly
Yes.
bluntly, to
So he's totally,
being
yes.
a right nasty their sort of character who maybe or is maybe not actually killing people.
Yes.
It's a bit shady there in that one, and like I said, I think you need to watch the film to really get there to get your own feel for it. However, this is a film I definitely remember watching at the time, and not watching it again until just a few days ago. But what a great film, isn't it, Rafa?
Yes. Yeah, I did the same. I watched it when it came for first time, and it was in the 90s. So I had this I had a vision about I not a vision, but I watched a movie, and I was thinking, oh, he's a very bad person and I hate him, and I'm very scared about him. And now when I rewatch it this week, of course I don't like him at all. He's the kind of guy that I'm very, very afraid, like it's the type of guy that we never want to meet at all, because he hates women. That's very
Mm-hmm.
clear in the movie. And but then I understand that he's insecure. He's very he he wants so much to be the best, to be better than everybody else, that he's very in the end he's very insecure, like his violence and he all he does, it's because he doesn't like himself, he doesn't believe himself, so I think the movie is about a very insecure guy. And I think that's very common. This kind of guys, they are very common, I think it's a perfect movie about toxic masculinity, like, because men struggle a lot with that too, just not women, but because some men has to be macho, they need to be manly, they need to act a way, and they can't be emotional, they can't be weak, they can't be, and I think this movie shows that. Besides, he wants money, he has a very good apartment, he likes good clothes, he likes music a lot. Well, everybody likes music. He likes music a lot. He likes a kind of type of women. They need to be beautiful, they need to be blonde, they need to be skin, and he likes good things. And when he sees that another person has better than him, he got mad, he got very upset. He need to have the same thing that person has, and I think that says a lot about the world now. Even it's a movie from the 90s telling a story from the 80s.
Uh-huh.
It's very, very up to date, I think.
I think, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think of um, when we think about the pressures that are placed on us, or the sort of material things that 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 sort of go on. Obviously, what we've just had just last week is it has been the Easter week, and obviously I am well aware a big um, their sort of tradition in their sort of Britain is the giving of chocolate eggs. The egg is meant to represent the stone that was over the cave of where the Jesus was. But so and like everywhere else, Easter's now a very this sort of commercialized thing. and
Yes.
in Britain, and in plenty other places. What we now see on the likes of in Instagram is people going way overboard with presents and
Yes.
all kind of things. Um, but when you look at that, and I look at it, and I'm just like, well, that's a load of nonsense. But I know other people will be looking at it and thinking, well, I wish my life was like that, and
Yes.
you know. But what that made me think of, and inside American Psycho, so there's a great scene where they're sitting at, I think it's a business meeting, some sort of meeting, and actually they're showing off their new their business cards, and Patrick Bateman, he's there sitting with his, and he thinks, well, mine's the best. And
Yes.
then three or four other of they're the men, so they show theirs, and they're only slightly different from each other.
Yes. For me, it's all the same.
Yeah, but he gets this feeling that, oh, my card's not the best now, and he doesn't like it, and that really hurts him, hurts his their sort of
Yes.
and then of course he goes on from that, and he does lots of absolute horrible things, and
Yes.
kills people, and it degrades their sort of women and all kinds of not nice stuff.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but like you touched on, there's this sort of culture that we live in, and unfortunately we get sort of trapped up in, and that we want more, or we feel we have to be they're the best, and that can really
Yes.
affect sort of people as well.
Yes. But I think it, like in the scene that you said about the business card, it's interesting because he wants to be different from
Mhm.
everybody else. He wants to be the best one from all the guys in the room. But you notice that it's everybody look like, everybody use the same kind of suit.
Uh-huh.
Everybody used the same kind of haircut. Everybody had the same kind of glasses. Even the guy came to talk to him, call him for another name. When you look to the guy, that the guy confuses him, it's exactly like him.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because he wants to be different, but he doesn't want to highlight. He doesn't want to be totally different from the other ones. He wants to go to the same restaurants. He wants to have the same kind of apartments. He wants to wear the same kind of clothes, but he wants to be the best one to do that. So this is a little bit weird because he wants to be different, but he doesn't want to be different. He
Yeah.
wants
Oh,
to fit in.
yeah, he does. He wants to be they're the same. Um, it's a very it is a very powerful film. It is, like you say, Raph, it does very much touch on toxic masculinity. Um,
Yes.
one thing what it also is that it's a very funny film.
Yes, it
So
is.
it's very sort of stylish. It is very funny. It is very fun. Some of the most sort of disturbing scenes are also your favorites because of the way that they're shot. Um,
Yes.
you know, um, so for you, is there a favorite? Scene.
Yes.
What one stands out for you?
Well, it's a weird scene. That's my favorite because it's the scene that he is with the two prostitutes,
Hmm.
and one prostitute is it's a girl that he picks up on the street. It's a street prostitute, and the other one it's a escort girl that works for wealthy man, and he calls and he goes to his apartment. And when they are there, you notice the difference from both of the girls. The prostitute on off the street, she is very cautious and is taking care of what's happening, just observing what's happening. And the other girl is very comfortable and talking and asking, "What do you want? What are you are you what are you going to do?" And the other girl is just like, "Oh, I would just listen and pay attention because this guy is a little bit weird, you know. And then when they are at the bedroom, when he starts to have sex with them, he's very voyeuristic about it
Mhm.
because he wants to record them having sex together. And then when he's with them, he looks at himself in the mirror, his muscles, and it's a little bit funny and sad, I think, because that's the scene that shows his insecurities, because he's there having sex, but he's worried if he looks okay. At the same time, you notice that he doesn't care about them. You know, they are just holes for him. It's a little bit rude to say that, but
Yeah. Mhm.
it is, you know. So it's interesting. It's a very interesting. And at the same time, he's talking about Phil Collins and the song Phil Collins.
Yeah.
That's not a sexy thing.
No,
So
no, it's not. It's interesting that you touched on he's being voyeuristic, but I didn't particularly feel that the way that the scenes were shot were voyeuristic.
no, no, no.
Um,
I don't know. I don't think so. I think like I like that scene because even it's a very violent scene, because it is, because he is with the two girls, but you don't see the body of the girls. You don't see anything. You don't see anything. Like there is no the sex scene. It's very you just you just know what's going on, but you
mhm,
don't them naked. You don't see there is nothing very um, voyeuristic about the girls, about the body of the woman. And I think that's the good thing when you see a horror movie, especially directed by a woman, because there is this fetish that I think it's very bad about the woman's body, the female body, that is very, very bad, you know, like uh, the violence against women in this movie, the way they show the woman's body and the in this kind of movie, it's very bad. It's very like it's like I told you, it's a bad fetish, I think, you know. And when you see a horror movie directed by a woman, when there is some violence against a woman's body, normally it's something that makes sense to the scene or makes sense to the movie. It's not for free, you know. You're not like, oh, just show some breast and some beautiful woman, very, you know, like dead with it, and it's sexy at the same way. I don't think this is nice, you know. And in this movie is very violent, and big the I think the biggest part of the violence of the movie it's against women, but you never see the violence happening, but you understand that he's a man that doesn't like women, you know, so that thinks little about women. That's a way to say, I think.
my favorite scene, and again, it touches again the use of this sort of music is really great in
Yes.
this one. Um, my favorite scene, I must admit, is where he invites the character played by Jared the Leto back to his apartment, and obviously, so the Jared Leto character just thinks, oh well, we're just gonna have a sort of drink and talk, macho men things. And while this is going on, Patrick, the Bateman's actually getting ready to they sort of kill him. But he does that to a soundtrack of Huey Lewis and the News.
Yes.
And he's kind of dancing around his the apartment. It's a very funny film, but they're a very funny their scene, and actually the use of the music really sort of tops it off because a lot of the artists who are used in the film, and I know that they also come from the book, so that the use of the music plays a large part in the book as well. These are very mainstream, they're sort of artists in many ways, and there's lots of songs that we like, but they're quite, you know, the music's quite sort of bland in a way, you know, very popular music. You know, not what you would call, you know, edgy music at all. And I really like that. So, you know, it uses a very mainstream sort of song, and here he is with you know, with an axe or whatever it is, and he's away to kill you know, Jared Leto while he's wearing a full you know, bodysuit, because he knows he's going to be covered in blood.
But I like, because the whole apartment, the furniture has sheets on it, and there is newspaper on the floor, and Jared Leto looks and says, "Oh, this is the fashion session," and starts to laugh, and you're like, "Oh my God."
he doesn't know what's going on.
Yes, but I keep thinking, if someone invited me to go to their apartment and there is, you know, newspaper on the floor, I was like, what's going on?
I would be a little bit worried, yeah.
Yes.
But it's a great film, isn't it? Do we think so we talk about him as not being a very nice man, obviously, sort of you know, sort of toxic and so on. Now, the Babadook touches a lot about sort of mental health. Do we think, now we know starting out he's not a nice man?
No, I don't.
But you know, did you get anything from his this sort of descent into, you know, all of the horrific things that's sort of going on? Did you get any sense of his sort of mental health at all?
Of course, I think I think that I think it's like I told you, he's a very insecure man, and maybe he needs some attention, but a good attention, someone that really cares about him, you know. Because if you notice, he has the secretary, she likes him. Secretary really likes him. She looks up to him, you know, like she thinks he is very good. He's a nice guy. He thinks he's a nice guy. And in the end, you see that he cares a little bit about her, you know, when she goes to his apartment and she can't kill her because she do all these questions about him. It's very interesting, this scene. He asks her, she asks her, him, oh my God, she asks him about the fiance, about his life, about what's going on with him. And you notice that that's the most profound connection that he has, it's with his secretary. Because even with his fiance, that's she doesn't care about him, she just wants him to be a good looking guy, to go to places with her, and his friends just want to be better than him, you know, and what's hip to do now, what's nice to do now, what the restaurant we should go now, you know. And the secretary is the only person that really cares about him. So I think it's like, I think it's like Amelia on the Babadook. He needs just someone to care about him, you know. Because it's like I told you, it's I don't he doesn't allowed himself to be emotional or weak, but weak in a way to show vulnerability, you know. So I think that's it.
I think one thing I get is that it's got a good sense of the paranoia that he feels, and that really builds up there throughout the film. Again, just to touch on the scene with the business cards, because I got a sense of it very much there that, so for all he is annoyed that, um, he thinks that some of the other men's cards are better than his, and we know that they're not really that much so different.
No, it's not.
But that's when I just start to get that sort of paranoia sort of moving on from there, because he's paranoid about it as well. He's like, oh, well, where did...
Yes.
Yeah. And that really builds up, and it does really descend into not sort of gory madness at all, but I mean, it really does test the limits of their sort of decency and so on, as it were.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but I think I hate to I hate to explain himself, because he's the kind of guy that I really hate. But I think he does everything that he does to get attention. He just wants to be. It's like I said, he wants to be different, but at the same time, he wants to fit in. So.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose that really shows the conflict there, doesn't it? And what kind of stresses that image and status and finances and all those kinds of things really put on us, and what those sort of pressures are for their people. And I mean, this film is, it's not realistic in any way, but it does give a sense of all that sort of feeling, all like I say, all those sort of pressures that can lead us to sort of breaking down.
Yes.
Patrick Bateman, if you are going to have a breakdown, and I hope that you don't have one like he does, please.
No. But it's like I told you, I'm really scared about guys like him, because yes, I said that he doesn't like women. It's very clear that he hates women. He doesn't want to know about them, but at the same time, he's a guy that doesn't like anybody. In the movie, it's very clear that he doesn't care about anybody else, just himself. But at the same time, I one thing that I think it's important is to think that he's not a monster, he's not a psycho, he's just a guy that thinks that he's entitled of the world, and he'll do whatever he can to get what he wants,
Yeah.
And we know a lot of guys like him. So I'm living in Brazil, and Brazil has a president that thinks like that now. So I think it's very, very clear now,
I absolutely get that. There, Rapha, and believe me, Britain has its fair share of Patrick Bateman's, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. But it's a great film. I'm so glad.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant. We did have a third film.
Yes.
Unfortunately, that one fell by the wayside. Only because I couldn't find a way to actually watch it in the UK, which is really disappointing.
It's funny because here in Brazil we have it on a movie channel, but I think it's because it's an American movie that make a lot of noise on America, but I don't think it went well in Europe, so maybe just because of that.
Maybe, yeah. However, when it does turn up somewhere, I absolutely will be watching it. We'll be getting you back on there to talk more about that and lots of other films. So I'm very intrigued about the Brazilian horror films now. So so we will absolutely do some more of that. Now Now, you don't just like horror films there, Rapha. You actually write about them.
Yes,
For your work. So would you like to tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, so first I want to correct one thing because I called Zé do Caixão Joe Coffin. It's not Joe Coffin, it's Coffin Joe. It's the opposite.
Coffin Joe, okay.
Coffin Joe, because here in Brazil we don't use the English name, we use the Portuguese name, of course.
Yeah.
It's Coffin Joe. So, but yes, I like horror movies since I was very little. I watched Carrie with 7 years old.
Yeah.
I got very, I really liked the movie. I really liked the girl that has powers and could kill everybody that made bad things to her, you know, even if he died in the end, but he has powers.
Yeah.
And I grew up with a mom that likes horror movies too, so she always let me watch horror movies since I was very little. And when I went to college, I'm a journalist. I and when I always like cinema, I always like movies a lot. So when I went to college, I decided that I wanted to work with movies, and I started to write about movies, and then I did that until 2018. And in 2018, I decided, no, now I will only talk about horror movies because it's a passion. It's something that I love. I like a lot. I love a lot. So, and I have this podcast too as well, the Miss Horror Radio, about horror movies and horror series and everything horror. And I have an Instagram account called Miss Horror Theater that I only talk about horror movies and and everything horror. And I the most nice thing about that is I found a community that's very warm and very welcoming. That's the people that likes horror movies. I think we like horrors on the screen, but we don't like horror in real life.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's very nice, and everybody was very, very nice to me. And now I have this group with other girls here in Brazil that we talk about horror movies, we write about horror movies, and it's like a movement to show people that women like horror movies too, and we can write about horror movies. So we did this group to help each other and to show the world and to everybody that is this kind of there is this group of amazing women that likes horror movies too, you know.
Excellent. Well, I absolutely love that. I will just say that if you are listening to this podcast, and you would like to, and you think, well, I think I will find out some more about the Rapha's work.
Yes.
Just to let you know, I'm not bilingual.
I think you should learn Portuguese. It's so easy.
Well, I might try that. I don't really have any Portuguese at the moment. If you have Portuguese, though, please do check out Rapha's work, because I know it's absolutely brilliant. Anyway, Rapha, that's been great fun, very thought-provoking as well. And I'd just like to say thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoy it. It was very, very nice. I was a little bit worried to talk in English, but
your English is absolutely brilliant, Rapha. Thank you so much.
Thank you.